No, I'm not going to read this. Hey, everybody. This is the hottest commodity in pro wrestling, the manager's manager, the maker of mayhem, the bringer of boom, the wager of war, the instigator of illuminating truth, and as of recently, the collector of champions. And you're watching the Hashtag Truth with Scott Larson. Now, get out of here.
Watch it all fall down around you now. Was it ever really worth it? Having your kingdom crumble to the ground because you never had the courage. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
L&L Fence Company, specializing in custom fencing from wood and aluminum to chain link. 9331 Albemarle Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today for your free estimate. 704-563-9544. L&L Fence Company, the king in custom fencing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hashtag Truth, a special morning edition of Hashtag Truth. We are here with one Mr. Carl Knight. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I am tired. I'm just getting off a 13-hour shift and trying to get home. I was hoping to be home before this, but it is what it is, I guess.
Like sometimes, man, it happens like that. So let's get right into it, man. Mr. Carl, tell everybody how you got into the wrestling business. Let's start off and tell your whole story.
Oh, wow. Okay, so my very first exposure to professional wrestling, being from Dallas, was through World Class Championship Wrestling, as most people in this area. Probably 85, 86. So it goes back a long ways. How I actually got into the business, my mom in 1988, 1989, her and her husband, my stepfather, decided to get into wrestling. My stepfather wanted to be a wrestler and was trained through Killer Tim Brooks out here in Dallas. And after a while, he wanted to learn how to be a promoter. So 1989, I'm 13 years old, and it's wrestling is just part of my life at that point. So I mean, everything revolved around wrestling. I actually started training against my mother's will at the age of 13, 14 years old. And I was making parts every now and then, and again against my mom's will, or better wishes, I should say. And then we kind of parted ways in 1990, and then I just kind of toyed around with it, watched a lot of wrestling growing up. And then in 1995, I was in the Atlanta area, and I had actually started training with a guy that I met at a new version of Georgia Championship Wrestling. Definitely not the Ole Anderson Georgia Championship Wrestling, but an offshoot of that. And I'd started training with him. In my living room of my double wide trailer, which was not fun at all, and decided I wanted to actually train. And back in 1996, you could throw a cat and hit a wrestling promoter that would train you. Only problem is most of those guys needed to be trained themselves, and it was just a cash grab. Most of the shows out there were really poor quality. Every now and then you get some guys to come in that were worth seeing or worth working with, but it just wasn't. It wasn't a safe environment back then. Just because everybody in the Atlanta area had a promotion of some sort in a wrestling ring, and they could train you, you know, for $3,000, I'll train you.
Right, right.
But they the training was very.
So at this point, are you a wrestler? Have you been trained to wrestle?
Yeah, at this point I was a wrestler. To be honest with you, I reffed my very first match in February of 2016.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of my 5th year, going into my 6th year of actually being a referee. But sorry, I'm driving here, folks. This is probably a little different format than what you're used to. So yeah, so 1996, I'm wrestling. I kind of fell out of it and didn't get back into it until about 1999. Started training again properly. I was getting proper training, and while I was training, I wound up breaking my back, and I took a 15-year hiatus. Yeah. I was practicing a leg drop off the top rope, and the first time I did it, I gave myself a bit of a stinger, but I still had enough feeling and everything to where I could get up and on the second fall, I actually compressed my L3 and my L4 like they were literally sitting on top of each other. I blew out my L7 and I broke my tailbone. So severe spinal, severe spinal trauma, and it put me out for a long time. Like I thought about wrestling and wanting to get back into it, but I knew I was sore and I was getting older, and it didn't make sense. And then at that point, when you get a severe injury like that, the cons outweigh the pros of actually being a wrestler. Oh yeah, definitely. And they outweighed the pros for 15 years.
Right.
So back in 2015, I was 39. I was talking to my wife, and I said, I really, she knew that I was a big wrestling fan, and she knew my story and everything. And I told her that I really wanted to get back into it because I started seeing promotional stuff in this area on Facebook that I hadn't really seen before. So I was like, oh man, there's a wrestling scene out here, and I wasn't aware of it. And it took me, I'd say, about 6 months and about 7 horrible matches for me to realize that wrestling just wasn't going to happen for me. And so I wanted to be a part of the business, and I wanted to contribute somehow, because I'm just a firm believer that if you're in something, you have to bring value to it, and you have to be able to contribute. And me being in the ring as a wrestler was not contributional at all. It was a bad idea.
So you switched over to refereeing at this point, right?
Actually, before I started reffing, I actually did what you're doing. I did podcasting.
Okay.
I met up with a guy named Trey Mack at one of the shows that I was working, and we started talking, and God, we had about an hour and a half conversation just about this and how to help promote it. And we basically launched a podcast network called The Offshoots. I mean, he had already had it going, but I started going to all these local shows in Dallas that he didn't have reach in, and I built a little bit of a reputation with a lot of the bookers and the promoters, and like I was invited. It wasn't I hate the term, but I wasn't just some mark behind a microphone. I actually knew some information about the business. I had a history, and I actually knew what I was talking about, and I actually knew how to try to draw people to these companies, and so it didn't go unappreciated.
Right.
And then just at one point, it was fun doing the podcasting, and I didn't mind doing it, but I wanted more. I wanted something more. My ultimate goal is to run my own shit. And you can't learn a whole lot when you're just interviewing the boys.
Right.
So I wanted to immerse myself deeper into the business and learn as much as I can. And I figured that and having, at this point, 20 some odd years of knowledge into the business, somebody wants to step out from NWA out of Apache.
You're starting to break up, Carl. Yeah, you're starting to sound like a robot. Sir.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're just going to have to repeat the last couple of sentences you said because we didn't understand a word of it.
All right. Okay. Where'd you lose me?
I lost you at the point where you said you had 20 years experience, and then we kind of lost you.
Okay. So not really 20 years experience, just 20 years of exposure and knowledge.
Okay.
So I decided I wanted to be a referee out of a post on Facebook, and one of the guys that I had actually done correspondent work for said that he would give me a shot. That was John. John.
You totally froze up on me now. Yeah, traveling will do this, sir. We can barely understand the words you're saying now. You're glitching, you're stopping, you got the robot voice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, where is I live in Podunk, Texas, so it's a lot of dead spots. I apologize. Like I didn't want to have to reschedule because we'd
you're good.
This, so
you're good.
I'm big on being punctual.
Me too. I try my hardest to do what I say I can do, so you wrestled, you got trained, then you got injured, and then right after that you decided that you would go into podcasting, and after podcasting for a little while, you wanted more. You wanted to be deeper into the business than just asking questions. And I understand that because I get frustrated like that too sometimes. I ain't gonna lie to you. And so at this point you decided to train to be a referee, correct?
Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, I have no formal training as a referee in professional wrestling.
Okay.
Just because the thing where I get a skate on this is I'm a trained wrestler. So
right.
we've all worked the practice matches and the scenarios and stuff like that. So I had in-ring experience, and I've watched enough tape and studied, and so I knew the role of a referee. I knew how they should work, and I had some really good mentors along the way. Rick Manning worked for Global Championship Wrestling. James Beard worked for World Class, Global, NWA. A local guy out here named Bump Caldwell. Between those three guys, there's about 100 years of experience. So
right.
I've had some really good mentors. I've had some really good, just the promotions that I've worked for have always been really good about giving me feedback and saying, hey, instead of this, do this. And this is why you do this instead of this. And, I'm a strong learner just because, in my professions, I've been a trainer. So I've always been able to tell somebody how to do something better. And, So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I like what you're doing, but if you do this instead of this, and here's why, I understand that. And I will always adapt feedback into what I'm doing. And it's worked out for me pretty good for the last 5.5
So
years.
you're one that takes constructive criticism and turns it into a bonus or a plus for what you're doing.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. If you can't take the constructive criticism or even a lump in the road and learn from it, because I've made mistakes. I've made huge mistakes.
Right.
But the blessing in making a mistake is you've learned a lesson, or
Right.
you should have learned a lesson.
Right.
And then you know what not to do moving forward.
Right.
So, and that's in life in general. That's not just in business and wrestling. That's in life in general. So,
Right.
you know, one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is my personal integrity and being able to hold myself accountable. I'm not a yeah but kind of guy. You know, if
Right.
somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, you did this wrong," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I did this right." But
Right.
that's not. We're not talking about what I did right. We're talking about what I did wrong. So
Right.
there's a level of maturity that's appreciated. Because I mean, I when I first started out, I had a couple of moments where I got a little butt hurt and took things the wrong way. But hindsight being 2020, looking back, that was the wrong approach.
Right.
And anybody that can't take, pardon my language, an ass chewing
Right.
for the right reasons, you kind of don't need to be floating around
Right.
in this business, because those things are going to happen.
So let's say I was a 15-year-old kid trying to get into professional wrestling, what would you sit down and tell me? You know, if I came to you, Carl, I want to be a professional wrestler. I want to train. I'm serious about this. My mom and dad are behind it. My family's behind it. I seriously want to do this. What information would you give them? What ambitions or what goals or what would you sit down and tell that guy?
The very first thing that I would suggest to anybody, especially at that age, at 15 years old, finish high school, have a backup plan. Because there's a lot of guys that bank on this, and let's say they have a career-ending injury and they can't wrestle anymore. Well, now
Right.
they have nothing. They don't have a backup plan. They don't have anything to fall back on other than a 9 to 5 at Burger King. And,
Right.
you know, not that there's anything wrong with working at Burger King. I'm just saying, you know, get your education, you know, get a job, and make sure that your job is supportive in this as well. Not just, you know, because you've got to have a support system all the way across the board. Yeah, it's great
Right.
that your family's behind you, but you know, you got, and I hear it when I started doing it, I was dead set on it. I was like, this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And you know, here I am working a 13-hour shift cleaning vent hoods at restaurants
Right.
because
Right.
I didn't have a backup plan. You know, it's one of those things is, you know, you got to prepare for the worst. You know, you always want to expect the best, but prepare for the worst.
Right.
You know, the support system is great. But, you know, finish school, get your education, you know, try to go to college, you know, get something that can take care of you if this doesn't work out. And, you know, that's one thing that people, they just look to the future, and they forget all the hills that you're gonna approach, because we don't always know how to handle that stuff. And, you know, working through life, you know, finishing school and, you know, getting some life experience helps us in that process. You know,
Right.
luckily for me, because like I said, it creates a maturity that can be appreciated.
Right.
I know a lot of guys that are 17, 18, 19 years old that think, you know, they're great. Don't get me
Well,
wrong; they're
not
great.
not only that, but if depending on what job you have, you could put that job into your gimmick. There's a lot of gimmicks
Exactly.
that come out of people's youth jobs, and
Mhm.
and because they live it every day, and they believe it, and they believe in the gimmick itself, they're going to make the fans believe in it.
Well, one of the things that, as you mentioned gimmicks. My gimmick here, the gimmick that I had in Texas when I was wrestling, before I got injured, while I was training, I still got matches here and there. The gimmick that I had was I'd gotten into a match to where I got hit in the butt with a steel chair.
Okay.
And because of that chair shot to my butt, I developed Tourette's. And to me, okay, it is. Don't get me wrong. It's funny, but as a 45-year-old man, it's fairly offensive because Tourette's is a mental condition.
Right,
It's a neurological condition that people can't help. And I'm not a big fan of poking fun at disabilities like that. When I was 21, 22.
Right. If you're gonna do something like that, and this is the only way that me as a fan would condone something like that, is if you are making awareness to that, that affliction, and you're giving back to that affliction. Like, if you're gonna go in and you're gonna be as a wrestler, then as part of your gimmick, you should be giving back. If you buy my merch, 25% of it goes to Tourette's Foundation or something like that.
Right.
Then I can understand you doing that, because now I know you're not making fun of it. Now I know you're actually playing a role. You know what I'm saying?
It made me. Oh yeah, definitely. Trust me. And unfortunately, at the age of 24, there was none of that.
Right.
We all just thought it was funny as hell.
Right.
And but even when I was doing it, even though we all thought it was funny, it made me feel uneasy. Just because, one, I just thought it was a stupid gimmick.
Right.
But when you're in the position that I'm in, you kind of got to take what you're given.
Right. Right.
I'm a big fan of the be yourself but amp it up a little bit. Those type of gimmicks, I'm a huge fan of that. Like Arn Anderson didn't need bells and whistles. Arn Anderson was a legit badass from Rome, Georgia, and he was a legit badass from Rome, Georgia when he was in the wrestling ring. So guys like that. Steve Austin, huge fan of Steve Austin's gimmick because it was him but amped up. So I'm not a fan of the forced gimmick, of the comedy gimmick. I'm not a big fan of that stuff. Yeah, for fanfare and belly laughs and stuff like that. All right, cool. But eventually your gimmick has to evolve into something that is very believable.
Right.
And because that's what we want the business to be, believable. And if I'm out there getting my butt handed to me by a dude wearing a diaper, come on. That why is a blue collar guy that can literally knock? Yeah, I mean, why is a blue collar guy that could literally knock your teeth down your throat getting his butt handed to him by a dude wearing a diaper? It doesn't make sense. That's my thing. I consider myself blue collar. I make less than $50,000 a year. I live in a single wide trailer on a piece of crap land. I raise goats. And that's me. I am legit who I say I am. And my presentation as a referee is not Carl Knight, the referee. It's Carl Knight. I just happen to be a referee.
Right.
And I'm pretty good at it. And you know, if it ever came down to it, if I had to throw hands with somebody, I'd throw hands with somebody. That's not, you know, that's not me going into business for myself. But if that's what it calls for, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
You know, I mean,
with you being trained in all the aspects of, you know, the wrestler, you know, behind the scenes, the you know, podcaster and all that, I'm pretty sure you have ideas that, you know, for storylines that are going on at certain wrestling shows, or maybe even a storyline that has to do with a referee or something like that. I'm pretty sure you probably been involved in those.
I'm a fantasy booker. Of course I am. I mean, but you know what I'm working on right now, aside from, you know, still trying to maintain my life and, you know, take care of my family and take care of my goats and, you know, make sure that I do a good job at work and make sure that the shows that I do work out, I put in 100%, 110% sometimes. You know, I'm trying to start my own promotion right now as it is. And I'm learning. You know, I've been working on this for 7 years. You know, 7 years ago, I wanted to.
What area? Where would you start this promotion? If you were to start this promotion tomorrow, if you had everything lined up and ready to go, where would this promotion start?
It would be in Terrell, Texas, because that's my hometown.
Okay.
And I'm a big local supporter. So, you know, if I can help a local business make money,
you help the local, you know, charities, help the, you know, get families involved. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, well, not only that, but, you know, just local businesses and stuff like that. Because I mean, a good friend of mine told me one time when I was doing podcasting, Keith Roberts, he's a part owner of VIP Wrestling out of Dallas, Texas. ProWrestling.com if you want to jump on their website and check them out. ProWrestlingDallas.com, excuse me. He told me, because I sought out some advice from him one time, and I was very grateful from the advice that I got from him. And he said, look, dude, one hand washes the other.
Right.
So, you know, it's one of those things. If I can help somebody in the process of helping me, that's good business. There's a lot of people that float around that, you know, all they care about is their end of the deal.
Right.
You know,
right.
And to me, that's bad business.
Right.
It's always nice to be attached to a charity or, you know, I was out there in North Carolina not too long ago at Pro Wrestling Union with Cole Maccabee. And
speaking of Cole Maccabee, here he is. He just said, "Hey, Carl. Hey, Scott. Got a small break from work. Good guy, this Carl Knight."
Shout out, Cole. Hey, man. I'm hoping to get out there October 2nd, man. I got to work on some stuff, but hopefully I can get back out there. But you know, the show that I worked for them was one of the most uplifting experiences that I've had in professional wrestling, because just the mission behind it, and everything that happened after the show, and you know, basically 35 people gave their lives to Christ that day, and that's a movement right there.
Right.
And to be a part of something like that, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good.
At some point, we all have to realize that professional wrestling, you know, there is a benefit to professional wrestling outside of money.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I 100% agree with you there.
So, you know, and I'm not, I mean, yes, we all want to make money, but, you know, there are things that are bigger than us that we can be a part of, and that are bigger than professional wrestling that we can be a part of. So
one of the big things that I love to see when wrestlers do it is mentorships, like Big Brother, Big Sister, things like that.
Yeah.
That's I think that's where you're going with this kind of, and things like that. But help the community, help your community out as a wrestler, as your gimmick. You know what I'm saying? Go out and you know, like you said, do the charities, do things like that. Put eyes in a good light on wrestling by using what you know to do.
Absolutely. So, okay, so like look at Drew Brees. You know, he doesn't have to donate anything to the city of New Orleans, but he does. Right. And you know, so like not to sound arrogant, but and I'm speaking on behalf of all the local talents all over the country. You know, you guys have reach. You have a fan base, and you have a golden opportunity to link yourself to something and draw attention to that something with your fan base, and help out in the world. It can be as little as, you know, hey, I volunteer at a dog kennel. We're doing an adoption this weekend. Why don't you come on out? I'll be here all weekend. You know, that type of stuff. It doesn't have to be anything big. You don't have to donate half your paycheck, or, you know, it doesn't hurt, but, you know, because everybody likes money. But, you know, it's just one of those things that if you can attach yourself to something and bring attention to it, something that's meaningful to you, you're making a difference. Not just in professional wrestling, but you're making a difference in society in general. And, you know, there's not a lot of that. There is some of it, don't get me wrong, but there's not as much as there could be. Right. So, you know, it's just to me, it's just one of those things like, you know, make the world, you know, make your job better, make the show better, make yourself better, make the world better. You know, go out of your way to just make things better. Right.
I agree with that 100%. Now, again, you said you want to start your own promotion, and you said you wanted to start it in your hometown there in Texas. Would this promotion have mostly local talent on the card, or would you go out and bring in a lot of well-known talent? I mean, what kind of promoter and booker would you be?
So I'll go ahead and give you the preface of it. The company is called Legacy. It's not Legacy Championship Wrestling. It's not Legacy Pro. It's just Legacy. And the reason that I use that is because I am a reflection of my mother's legacy. My mother raised me to be a certain way. Right. And I believe, well, my parents too. My dad taught me integrity. My mother taught me how to be a decent human being. And so I'm a reflection of that legacy. And everybody leaves a legacy behind when they leave. When they leave this world, they leave a legacy behind. Whether it's a good one or a bad one is yet to be determined. My goal is to leave a very commendable legacy behind. And that's not me being arrogant or boastful. I just want to be remembered as a guy that people liked, that people appreciated, you know, that, you know, man, that Carl, he was such a great guy. And again, I'm not trying to put myself over. It's just, that's what I want. I want to be remembered as a decent human being, not just a good referee.
Is what you're saying.
Exactly. I want my legacy to be that. So as far as the talent goes, the talent roster that I want are people that I've worked with in the past that have left a lasting impression on me, that have shown me kindness, courtesy, compassion, professional,ism. And those are the people that I want to work with, that I want to help elevate. So, you know, the guys that, you know, like bringing in big names and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, you could saturate a show with a bunch of big names, but how much is that really going to cost me?
Right.
You know, and am I going to get my money back on it?
Right.
And you know,
That's where you see a lot of promoters today. They'll go in the black just to put on a good show, or they'll go in the red just to put on a good show, when they don't
hey,
even
man,
realize
knock yourself
that
out.
they could use local talent and be in the black and still put on a good show.
So here's what I think. If you're running a large promotion, use local talent, bring in a name. You can bring in a name every now and then, you know,
Right.
on a monthly basis or something like that. You can bring in a couple of names every now and then, but don't saturate your show with, and this is just my personal opinion, and it's
Right.
not a knock on anybody anywhere in the country.
Right.
But don't saturate your show with a $60,000-$70,000 budget with a bunch of guys that used to work for WWE and ECW and WCW and stuff like that. Because I mean, yeah, they're bringing, they are a draw, and there's nothing wrong with
if they're
drawing.
not going to stick around and give us a storyline, if they're not going to be there for 2, 3, 4 shows in a row, and give us, and here's one of my sayings for my show: if you're not going to give me something to invest in, a one and done is cool, but for a fan, I don't mind seeing a Seth Rollins show up at an indie wrestling show, and I'll come to see him. I'll try to get an autograph. I'm not going to lie, I'm a wrestling fan, but I know in the back of my head that Seth Rollins isn't going to stay at the local promotion for 4 or 5 shows in a row and give me something to invest in. He's just there to sign autographs and get a pop.
And that's the thing, that show's going to draw really good that night.
Right.
What happens next month?
Yeah, exactly.
How many people are going
to the rest of the show still has to be good, and a lot of those people that are in the rest of the show are probably going to come back the following week, and you have to promote them too.
Yeah, exactly. So the guy, like I said, the guys that I want to work are the people that I feel need to be seen. Call it an NXT type thing or a OVW type thing, like a feeder league to other promotions, because I'm also a firm believer in promotions working hand in hand with each other. I'm a very old school thought process when it comes to professional wrestling. I don't think that Baby A on this show should be heel B on this show. I think if you're a baby at this show and you've got a fan following, you should be a baby on this show, or a heel on this show, whatever the case is. So, work together, kind of just correspond with each other just a little bit. You don't have to run the exact same storyline, but if you got a heel and he's great at getting heat, let him get heat. Don't make him come in and be a baby when everybody, half the people in the crowd already know that this guy over at this show is a baby. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to the character. And so my thing is I want to bring in people that are good, solid talent that, work in certain areas, but they need to be seen in other areas. Like, for instance, if there's a good core of guys down in San Antonio that aren't getting seen enough in Dallas, I want to bring those guys in. There's a good core of guys up in Amarillo, I want to bring them in. And vice versa. If I've got some local guys out here that aren't getting seen in San Antonio or Amarillo or Houston or something like that, I can reach out to those promoters and be like, hey man, let's do a little bit of a trade-off. I know a couple of guys out here. I can give you their information or get them in touch with you. I'll vouch for them because, word travels. Good word travels slower than bad words.
Right.
But the thing is if I can bring those really good guys out of San Antonio up into Dallas and put more eyes on them, that just builds their fan base. That builds them up. That builds their
when
want.
they come back and wrestle, they bring them fans to you. I mean, it all works hand in hand. Without a doubt.
So I mean, my first show is scheduled for September 25th here in Terrell. The biggest obstacle that I'm running into right now is finding a venue.
Right.
Which is the biggest obstacle that the two biggest obstacles that people run into are venue and money.
Right.
I have the money.
Right.
I have the money. I have a budget.
Right.
I have a very modest budget. But for my first run, for a first run show, I think the budget that I have and the talent that I have booked already, it's a solid show.
There you go. That's what you need. Just get a solid base. And I'm not a businessman by no means, but I have, I know enough about wrestling. I've been 30 years a fan, 30 years behind the scenes, 30 years of talking to, promoters and bookers and so, if you are true to what you say and you go out there and you give the fans something to invest in and, here's the one thing that I think kills a lot of promotions. And again, like you said, this is just my opinion. Local promotions tend to bring in a ton of talent from everywhere. And they don't make storylines last for more than one or two shows.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to invest in. Remember the NWA back in the day? Remember, when territories were going on? It was a big thing for a guy from this territory to go to this territory and fight, this champion fights this champion. It didn't have to be the world heavyweight champion, even if it was the TV champion or something that came over to fight. It was a big deal. And we've lost that, in my opinion, in independent professional wrestling, because you could throw like you said, you could throw a rock in any direction, and there's a professional wrestling ring where somebody's getting money for wrestlers to come in and work. But are they really giving you something to invest in? Are they really giving you storylines that are good? Are they a safe environment for the workers to work? Are they fan friendly? Are they family friendly? Are they affordable? For the area where they're working.
Exactly.
All that goes into, being a promoter, and people don't understand that.
Well, it's called a show for a reason.
Right.
Okay, so like, you take your standard drama television show. We'll say, oh God. Trying to think. Criminal Minds. Okay. So Criminal Minds, every episode had an underlying story.
Right.
But the season had a primary story that these little stories fit into. That developed the show. It developed the interest in the show. If every episode was just, Crash Boom Bang, Crash Boom Bang, I'm not going to watch Crash Boom Bang because I just saw Crash Boom Bang.
Right.
But if I can watch Crash Boom Bang and Morgan and Penelope are about to hook up and I want to follow Morgan and Penelope,
right.
That's why I'm watching the show, not because of Crash Boom Bang,
Right.
I'm watching because I'm invested in the story of Morgan and Penelope. And I watch a lot of Criminal Minds. So.
That's okay. I understand what you're saying, and to put it in wrestling jargon, here's what I like. Okay, let's say you have a champion who's a heel, a heavyweight champion who's a heel, and you got 2 or 3 baby faces chasing this heel champion. Okay, that's your main storyline.
Yep.
Okay. But then here comes Joe Schmo, heel, who's interfering with one of those babies getting to the championship. There's a side story like you're talking about.
Yep.
You got, and you could just keep doing that. And right there, you've already given me something to invest in. You've already it. All them small stories are all built around this championship, and you're making the championship mean something.
Yeah. So a couple of months ago, I helped book a show. It was a paid show. You know, it was for a brewery out here in the Dallas area, and
Right.
we booked a 5-match show.
Okay.
And the entire show built up to the main event. Like everybody that was involved in the show throughout the course of the show showed up in the main event.
Nice.
So yeah. So basically what happened is you have match 1, Hill team comes out, interference, yada yada yada, all that fun stuff. By the end of the night, so there was a lot of interference by the Hills. So
Right.
but by the main event, the fans were like, man, I hate these guys. So when the challenge came out, hey, you know what? You've been interfering all day. How about the 6 of us just tie it up right now? The fans are like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so you have to tell a story during the show to keep their interest also. But you also have to, like you said, you have to have that elongated storyline, because like I said, Crash Boom Bang on Monday is still Crash Boom Bang next Monday.
See, and what don't happen enough, and here's what we were talking about before when you were talking about, other companies working together with you. Okay, let's say you just did what you said. There was 5 matches that worked all the way up to a big 6-man, 3-on-3, match at the end of the night. Okay, well then one heel and one baby go off to 10 miles down the road to another show the next night. Why not have part 2?
Right. Carry over.
Heel blah and blah versus babyface blah and blah, who you just saw over at blah blah. They're gonna tangle it up again here at
or
blah,
maybe
blah,
not
blah.
even have a match. Maybe have a run in.
Yeah, anything like that.
So they're
Yeah,
like, oh man,
exactly. It's anything to keep the story going.
anything you can do to get the people to come back, not just come back, but want to come back. They're like, man, I want to know what's going on with this.
Leave it with a cliffhanger, man.
Exactly. I'm
Do a show on TV that doesn't, and if you become a perfectionist at, you watch all these TV shows, and we're talking about TV, kind of comparing it to wrestling. They have gotten so good at, they'll go to commercial right when you think that they're going to drop a bomb on you. And then, whoa, wait a minute. I got to wait 2 more minutes because I got to see what happens at the other side of the commercial. Same thing with wrestling.
Or they end the show and you're like, what? Like, come on, man.
Now
Like,
I got to wait
wait.
2 days to find out what happened to Mary and Paul. Exactly.
The ones that I hated were the mid-season finales. Like, I've watched this show. Like, I used to watch Burn Notice. I've seen every single episode of Burn Notice, and it killed me because they had the fall and the summer season, but it was all one season. But the fall season would end on a cliffhanger, and they would pick back up in the summer for the series premiere, or the season premiere. But it was all from the fall,
part of the same season,
the fall finale. It was all part of the same season, but I had to wait 4 months to watch it.
Right.
And it irritated me. But I tell you what, when it was time to watch it, I was there. I had my DVR set, and I was sitting in front of the TV. I was ready to watch my Burn Notice. I love that show. It was a great show.
And I'll tell you another thing, because I'm old school. I'm total old school. Right? I love the old school. I'll go back and watch more old school than I will of today's WWE or AEW. What happened? Let me ask you something, Carl. Whatever happened to the days of 2 wrestlers having a match at a pay-per-view a month away and never touching each other until the day of the pay-per-view. Whatever happened to that? It used to happen. You used to, back in the day, you would go through 5 or 6 jobbers and put out promos and build up the suspense of getting in the ring with the guy. Nowadays, you do 5, 6 matches with the same guy before you even hit the pay-per-view.
Yeah. And by then I'm spent. I've seen John Cena, Randy Orton 150 times.
Right? Exactly.
Why
and
does-
you know the moves,
why does-
and you know when they're going to hit their signature. You know when
Yeah.
they're going to hit their finisher. You can basically, it comes to a point where, okay, I know this is about to happen. I know this
So-
is about to happen.
The thing about it is why do I want to watch John Cena, Randy Orton at WrestleMania when I just saw John Cena, Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble, Backlash, SummerSlam,
Exactly. Exactly.
in your house? Why do I want to watch that? I've seen this match. The only thing that I could hope for is a Cena heel turn, and he goes ape shit on Randy Orton and crushes his skull in.
Right.
And that's not going to happen.
What's going to be? What are they going to do different? That's what at that point you're asking. What's going to be different?
Will we see this? Will we see this?
Fall short.
Yeah. Well, I don't even watch WD. To be perfectly honest with you, I do not watch professional wrestling. I watch local promotions.
Wrestling in almost a year, bro. I'll sit down and watch the pay-per-views with my family, and maybe 1 or 2 matches in, I fall asleep. I ain't gonna lie. I fall asleep.
I mean, so I watch a lot of independent stuff, and I'm not talking like super indie stuff. Like, I don't rush out and buy the PWGs and the New Japans and all that stuff.
Right.
But if I see something that pops up on YouTube, I'll pull it up and I'll watch it.
Oh, I love doing that. I do that daily. I watch anywhere from 3, 4 hours of wrestling. I won't say every day, but there are days when I'll sit here at my computer and I'll go through YouTube, or I'm researching to, find somebody out there to put on hashtag, and I watch 3 or 4 indie shows and have a blast doing it.
Yeah, because I mean, you can see some really cool stuff from people that aren't signed, and and that goes back to legacy. The premise is to pay tribute to those that laid the road before us, and pave a road for those in front of us. Because I don't consider these guys the future of professional wrestling. I consider them the now of professional wrestling, and that's that's a hard concept for some people to understand. They're like, well, they haven't done anything. No, but they're getting there.
Right.
You
have to take care of the here and now in order to get there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere. And one thing that I've noticed is there's a lot of companies that are doing excuse me, that have like their own training facility.
Right.
And they'll develop a show off of their trainees after they've graduated. Like out here in Dallas, there's a fantastic training facility. It's called DFW All Pro Wrestling Academy. Well, they also have their own wrestling promotion called DFW All Pro. Again, part of the ProWrestlingDallas.com family. A lot of good, solid talent is coming out of that camp. Rodney Mack has the Dog Pound Dojo down in, I believe it's San Antonio area. He's got a lot of great guys coming out of that camp. There's a guy in College Station, the home of Texas A&M, Houston Carson. He runs Lions Pride, and a lot of his shows use his people that have graduated from his camp or training in his camp. And I'm telling you, dude, Texas has a good possibility of taking over the independent scene in the Southwest, just because of the simple fact that there are a lot of guys that are hungry, that are business savvy, because they've been trained that way. They've been trained to be professionals, not just wrestlers, but to be professionals. And a lot of credit goes to the guys that I mentioned: Houston Carson, Rodney Mack, Lamont Williams. These guys teach their guys the right way. And again, it's one of those are the guys that I want to help elevate. And they don't need my help. I want to help them. I want to be able to call them up and be like, hey man, I got a show on this day. I've seen a lot of your stuff. I'd like to bring you in. And I'd like for you to make some money while you're here. I don't want to do the whole, I'll give you a tryout. Well, he's already tried out. He's getting bookings all over the place. So why would I insult the guy by offering him a tryout?
Right. I got you there.
So, unless it's a fresh green.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, unless it's like a fresh green guy that's had like maybe 1 or 2 bookings, and whatever the case is, that's a different story. But for the guys that have already established themselves in the DFW area, in the Dallas market, to get onto another promotion and to get another set of eyes on them. And then, I've had people call me up from other areas and be like, hey, do you know this guy? I'm like, yeah. He goes, what do you think of him? Like, oh man, he's a great hand. He's solid talent, listens, he's willing to learn. He'll do the work, and they'll book him based on a recommendation. So, that's the type of stuff that I want to be able to provide to these kids, is because they are hungry. They are professional. They are courteous. They are business savvy. They understand there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. So
exactly. So we've come to the part of the show. We have a few minutes left. We've come to the part of the show where you tell everybody how they can get in contact with you if they're a wrestler and they want to get a hold of you for bookings for Legacy. How would they get a hold of you? Or if they want to book you as a referee or just hire you for something else, how would they get a hold of Mr. Carl Knight?
Oh, okay. So I've got a ton of emails. So for Legacy, it's legacytx@hotmail.com.
Okay.
You can submit videos, resumes, just the standard booking information, what your fees are and all that stuff. And like I said, we are in the infancy process, so I won't be snatching up a bunch of people anytime soon. But if I can't get you in my show, I know plenty of people that I could refer you to. So, my personal email for refereeing, it's refereecnight@gmail.com. Or no, refereecrnight@gmail.com. And then there's Facebook, Instagram. You can. I actually have a YouTube page that I haven't uploaded anything to for almost 2 years now, because content, dude. Me and technology do not get along at all. So you can ask all my friends out here. Me and technology are just not friends. So I've got about 15, 16 matches on my YouTube channel, for the last one being about 3 years ago, which just happened to be Pentagon Jr. and Barrett Brown.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I had so much fun in that match. Some of the companies that I work for, Texoma Pro, out of Sherman, Texas, they do a monthly show on the second Friday of every month. They are Facebook Live each show. So if you ever want to just check out some Texas talent, bookers, promoters, fans for that matter. It's always there. Trying to think what else. I do have an Instagram that I don't really mess with. I have Twitter that I don't really mess with. Again, technology, social media. Facebook is about
Is
the
get a hold
most
of
action you.
Carl Knight, just like you see it right there on the screen. Carl Knight.
Yep, that's it.
You got a hold of me. So, all right, Carl. Well, it was a pleasure having you on Hashtag Truth, sir. I loved hearing about your story, about how you started all the way up until now. I wish you tons of luck with Legacy. Please keep me in the loop. Send me the information
Absolutely.
when you want to start off, because I definitely want to watch the show. If you have anything on Facebook, or even if it's pay-per-view or whatever, let me know. Whenever you get your posters up, let me know. I'll put them up on my Hashtag Truth page and my personal page here. I just love promoting independent professional wrestling.
Hey, man, you know, and that's how I got started to where I'm at now. You know, like I said, I wanted to bring more eyes to these companies that I enjoyed.
Right.
And now I want to bring more eyes to the talent that I enjoy working with, that I enjoy being around in general. So, you know, we just want to expand the business. That's really all you can do.
There you go. And there, so I'm going to end it like this. If you want to be a part of a true legacy, get a hold of Mr. Carl Knight on Facebook. And if he can't hook you up on his show, he knows a ton more shows in Texas he can definitely get you hooked up on. And that is the Hashtag Truth. We'll see you guys tonight at 7 o'clock for another great Hashtag Truth. Thanks a lot, Carl.
Hey, thank you, Scott. I appreciate it, man.